Alright, what's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode here on Sharkstalgia, where I talk about all things 80s and 90s in the form of modern era comebacks. And in today's episode, we got something pretty new and interesting, and that is a reboot of the 1988 Bloodsport movie starring Jean Claude Van Damme, or as Chuck Norris would say, Van Damme. I will keep the link in the description below for those that want to read because this is from the website Variety. But it appears that we are now getting a reboot movie of the beloved classic Bloodsport. And this is one of those movies where, man, it's so iconic. It's such a classic, and it's like at a time where in the 80s where martial arts was at an all-time high because we know that 80s and 90s were basically the epitome of martial arts and how they were thriving at that time. Now, in this era, this modern era, I'm pretty sure that martial arts has not thrived by any means because despite having some successes of shows like Cobra Kai, as well as some other, we have some new releases like Mortal Kombat coming out, and as well as Street Fighter, which, it does, dive into martial arts to some degree. Um, but Bloodsport was one of those iconic 80s properties where, you had a whole underground tournament. It was also the foundation, half of the foundation of Mortal Kombat. And, you had the just a brilliant, choreography of Jean-Claude Van Damme's fighting style, as well as just, despite being a very simple story, it offered a lot to the table in the sense of that's just how ruthless things can be when it comes to underground martial arts fighting, especially in Hong Kong. Now, according to the Variety website, again, I will keep the link in the description below. It says creator Michael Coyle, I believe that's how you say his last name, is writing and directing a remake of the Jean-Claude Van Damme's martial arts classic Bloodsport. This says Van Damme starred in 1988's Bloodsport, blah, blah, blah. But it does say that plot details for Cole's reimagining haven't been revealed yet, so it's unclear how closely her take will follow the original film. So then it says, I have long been in awe of fighters and astounded by the discipline, intensity, and isolation the sports demands of them. I'm excited to explore this world, I'm especially so with A24 as my collaborators, and let's effing go. So yeah, then it just talks about all her other movies that she's part of, and then it also says Bloodsport introduced audiences to the gritty aesthetic of mixed martial arts, etc., etc. Now, for those who have seen Bloodsport, knows at least when it comes to the lore of Bloodsport or just the funny backstory, just to quickly go over. Now, this isn't like the most best way to interpret the story, but when it comes to Bloodsport, we know that the guy who created Bloodsport had pitched an idea that he was part of a blood sport from back in the day, the director at least. So that's how he got the movie to be green lit. But as the years progressed, we found out that he lied and fabricated the entire scenario just so he could make the movie. And the concept of Bloodsport never really existed because he basically just falsely lied the entire story just so he can make the film. So I thought that was pretty funny, even though back then it was supposedly based on a true story. But of course, that was not the thing. But the big highlight here was obviously Jean-Claude Van Damme, his fighting style, and all that good shit. And of course, we know that there was a Bloodsport 2, I believe, but it didn't really, I don't know, I didn't really watch it yet, but don't really care for it because nothing will beat the classic. Now, my only concerns for this particular film is that once again, the 2020 era, 2026 era, like, how are they going to do martial arts justice? Because it's not as intense as it used to be back in the 80s and 90s. And I feel like that nostalgic memory of martial arts has long surpassed us. And that I don't think people these days just don't really care about martial arts. So, will this director actually capture the magic of martial arts? I don't know, but otherwise, that's all the information we have so far, and I'm very skeptical of how this will turn out because I love this movie. Really, really amazing soundtrack. It's such a simple and straightforward film. That's why, if it doesn't need to be touched. It's not broken. This movie is classic. It's iconic, and it's just one of those movies that you want to watch to make you feel good in the sense of, yeah, like people are getting their ass kicked. So, with that being said, I'll have more information as time goes on. But for now, I thought this was just a man. We're heading into territory where martial arts is slightly coming back, but it's not hitting as it should. But otherwise, again, let's see what happens. So let me know in the comments below what you think of this information, and the link will be in the description below. And I'll talk to you all in the next episode.